Okay, so let's talk about The Flash and its ending. Before we get into it, we do have the merch drop for Pearl. Go check it out down below. You can see it in the screen here. I'll leave the link so you can go check it out. It keeps the lights on. It helps the channel a lot. But let's talk about this ending, what it sets up, and what it means. Very much so a ending that I didn't quite like as much, but let's get into it. So spoilers ahead, of course, for The Flash. You've been warned. So this movie basically is dealing with Barry Allen trying to sort of put things back together, and the only way that he sees fit is by going back in time and making sure his mother doesn't die. And the only way to do that is also to never have his father leave the house, because it turns out that the day his mother died, his father actually went to go buy a can of tomatoes that they needed. So in order to do this, Barry's able to speed through time, space, and everything to that exact moment, and thus he is able to go to the grocery store that day when his mother's buying the ingredients and all of that, and place the can of tomatoes in their cart. That way the father never has to leave, doesn't get blamed for the murder, and the mother doesn't die as well. This ultimately works, it seems, as there is now a timeline where both of the parents are alive and Barry is all grown up as well. So there is everything fixed until he realizes he is at another time now where there is still a young Barry in coming out of high school, entering college, and all of that. And so now it seems that things are not going as planned as he immediately thought. Then later on, we see that Zod has now come to Earth, and it turns out that this was the exact time when also Zod was coming to Earth when Barry was that young as well, and he realizes there is no Superman in this world, and so he goes back in time. Now Barry is pretty much wondering who can they call up. There is no Aquaman, there is no Wonder Woman, there is no Cyborg, and the only one that there is Batman, but it turns out it's not Barry's Batman, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck. It is actually Michael Keaton Batman, and Barry and the other Barry have to now go and try to recruit, and they're basically forming their own little group now in order to try and take down Zod. So what they're going to do is try to get Batman on their side, and maybe they could help in trying to find the Superman of this world in order to be able to defeat Zod, because that's the only way. And if they don't, then Zod is going to destroy the Earth just as he planned in Man of Steel. Eventually, Michael Keaton's Batman is going to help them. He was a little reluctant at first, and I will say I really enjoyed Michael Keaton's introduction to this. It was very much so giving me some vibes that I don't think we've gotten from Batman with the fighting and all of that, and it gets me a little bit excited to know that Andy Muschietti could be directing Batman Brave and the Bold, because I thought the first scenes as well about Ben Affleck's Batman were great, and also Michael Keaton. So I think Andy Muschietti could definitely handle Batman well. Now, we eventually see that Bruce Wayne and also Barry Allen over time are able to find where they're keeping Superman or a being of sorts, and they go to that Siberia site to try and take them out. It doesn't go as smooth as they thought, but eventually they are able to save the super person, who is in fact Kara Zor-El, not Kal-El, actually Kara, Superman's cousin, Supergirl. After being able to save Supergirl and all of this, helped her get her powers and all of that, she doesn't want anything to do with Barry or Bruce Wayne or the other Barry. Doesn't see there being sort of a trust with humans anymore after everything that they've endured. So they go off on their way to try and just face Zod on their own. What eventually happens, however, is that the other Barry, our main Barry, has lost their powers in the beginning of the film after they did the whole speed jump and all of that. They did help the other Barry get their powers, and we saw that scene play out sort of like it does in the comics and the origins for Barry Allen. So now they're going to do the same for this Barry, our main Barry. This is going to be with Bruce Wayne and the Bat Lab in the Bat Cave and all, which is a pretty cool sequence. I will say it doesn't go as planned the first time, and they don't know if it's going to work at all, as we see Barry is very injured. But then we see that Supergirl in fact returns to help them, and does in fact help Barry get his powers back, and now they are a team, and they are going to try and go and defeat Zod before anything is broken in this world. However, it doesn't go as planned. Everything just starts going bad in this scene, in this act. And not just in the story-wise, but the scene and act itself felt a little bit too rushed. I talked about that in my review, but I'm not going to review the movie here. I'm just telling you the story. So we see that Barry Allen and the other Barry Allen are trying their best to get it all sorted. We see Supergirl fighting Zod. We see Batman fighting the other aliens and the ships from Krypton. Eventually, however, we realize that this is just going to be a fail all the time. We see at points Supergirl be killed by Zod. We see also Batman dies in this as well. And the two Barrys decide to go back in time and fix this. They go back twice and it's still the same outcome. It's just going to all end. That's basically what Barry realizes. Before this all happens, Zod also reveals that they've already killed the Superman in this world, and they are in fact wanting Supergirl, not Superman. That's the reason they came down here. So it's always just going to end the same way, with Supergirl dying and Zod taking their body, and also Batman just dying. The world is just going to end. But the other Barry, the new Barry, doesn't want to accept this and keeps going back and back and back in time. Eventually we see them in the Speed Force, and we see that the big monster that had come out at the beginning, which we thought was a monster, is actually that Barry, but further into the future, as they have done this so many times, trying to find an outcome where they can save this world and save their mother at the same time. But the outcome is always the same. It all just ends. And so this Barry, our main Barry, decides, you know what, let's end this. Let's put a stop to this. But the other Barry that's gone to do this so many times in the future says there is another outcome where he kills this Barry and then they're able to survive. But he's not sure if that's going to work, right? He's just going to do it. Eventually, that Barry tries to kill this Barry, but the young Barry comes through and sacrifices themselves. And then we see everything just go back to normal as the other Barry goes back in time to that fateful day where they put the tomatoes in their mother's cart. But this time takes the tomatoes out and now knows that their mother is going to die. Share a little tender moment there with them. And then they realize, even though they couldn't save their mother, they can still save their father years later, as we see that the reason why the father couldn't win the appeal and all of that before was because the video that was at the supermarket that day, the tomatoes were down, so the father never looked up at the camera so they can give an alibi to where they were so that everybody knows that they weren't the ones that killed the mother. So what happens is Barry Allen puts tomatoes at the top, and that way the father has to look up at the camera when they go up to get it. Once they go back to their own timeline, this all works out. The father is now free, and we see that Barry is now going to go on a date with Iris. Seems that everything is fine until Bruce Wayne shows up, and it has not been Affleck. It is in fact George Clooney, and that's how the movie ends. Post-credit scene is just Barry Allen and Aquaman talking about everything that happened, and Aquaman's very drunk. And that's basically your movie right there. So overall, I thought that this was a very decent, fun blockbuster. I really do think that there is a lot to be desired. However, when it comes to this movie, especially with that third act that just feels very convoluted, very rushed, I think. But overall, what is going on now in this world? So Barry Allen was never able to have both things at once. That's basically the lesson here. The reason that Speed Force Dark Flash had pushed Barry in the beginning, I believe, was because they were trying to get Barry out of the way. They were trying to make sure that they could test every single outcome and maybe even try to kill Barry as well, because they thought that might be the way they were able to fix the worlds and all of that. I think these small changes eventually lead to a butterfly effect, as we saw with the mother, and I don't think Barry thought it through with his father either, because now we see that another butterfly effect has happened where he is not in the same world anymore. Now he is in George Clooney's Batman world. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this movie even goes after this, if they decide to make a sequel, which is kind of up in the air right now. It's a lot of rumors saying they've already written it and it's ready to go and that they're going to do it depending on the box office and all of that. Others see it more as Barry Allen's now in this universe so they can restart a whole new universe. And we get the concept of there's other DC universes out there, because in this one we saw Christopher Reeve's Superman, Nicolas Cage's Superman, Adam West as Batman, so on and so forth. Of course, Ben Affleck's Batman. We saw most of the Batmans, I feel, except for Christian Bale. And I think that's definitely something that this movie tried to set up, is that there is numerous universes out there. So when James Gunn's universe come, they'll just say this is another universe in itself. So it's a very interesting ending that leaves a lot open for DC to play with, and I think that's exactly what they wanted. It's just a big open playground to further develop whatever it is they're trying to develop, and I think that they're definitely going to be trying their best to do it as best as they can with all these multiverse movies, shows, and all of that. I think that they definitely know that they have a lot of things that people already set up with their notions about what these stories and all of that can tell. And I think that they're just trying to think what exactly will work and what will not work. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. I definitely think that the last act is very messy. I do think that the acting is great though, and I would have loved to see more Supergirl in this. I feel like she was really pushed to the side, especially in the end. Even though it felt like we were really going to get to know this character more, I do hope there is a future for the character and whatever comes next. But yeah, that's basically your ending. George Clooney's Batman's here, and the bad card is now canon to Ezra Miller's Barry Allen. So we'll see what happens next if we in fact get George Clooney as the old Batman in Batman Brave and the Bold, as many people are theorizing. I could definitely see that play out, and I would definitely not be opposed to seeing Clooney back in the suit, but we'll see what happens. Oh, Val Kilmer's Batman was not in this as well, so there were some Batmans missing, but I think we definitely got more Batmans than we thought for sure. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the ending. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you not? It basically was just the ending saying Barry Allen shouldn't mess with the universe and time and all of that, because he'll make all of the other DC universe crash upon themselves and potentially destroy everything. And yeah, now Barry is stuck with George Clooney's Batman, and I don't know who else. We'll see what happens. But anyways, as always, that is going to do it for me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out our merch if you haven't. We are running a giveaway, 28,000 subscribers. We will announce the winner, so make sure you subscribe and comment below for all of that. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.